Beth, a gray-haired woman with weather-beaten skin, walked slowly through the deserted streets, the weight of a life of loneliness in every step. Winter had arrived, and the biting cold made her frail body shiver. Once, she had lived a comfortable life, surrounded by a loving family. But life had taken her away from all that. The loss of her home and loved ones had left her wandering the streets like a shadow, seeking shelter and hope on every street corner. That evening, while looking for a safe place to spend the night, Beth spotted a park. The lights in the trees shone like little stars, but she knew they were just light bulbs. She found a wooden bench and settled there, wrapping herself in a tattered blanket that barely warmed her. Her stomach rumbled, reminding her that her last meal was many hours ago. As she looked up at the starry sky, her thoughts wandered. "How did I get here?" she whispered to herself. "Where is everyone I loved?" The echo of her words was lost in the wind, and sadness enveloped her like a dense fog. Then something caught her eye. Turning around, she saw a dark leather briefcase left in a corner, partially hidden by dry leaves. Curious, Beth got up and approached it. The case looked new and she hesitated. "I wonder what's in it," she thought, but her conscience told her that it wasn't right to touch things that weren't hers. However, the need to know and perhaps to find something valuable drove her on. With an effort, Beth opened the suitcase. To her surprise, she found meticulously organized documents, all belonging to a businessman called William Carter. Among the papers were contracts, financial reports, and even photos of a happy family on a picnic, all smiling for the camera. The sight of those beaming faces touched her heart, reminding her of the very family she had lost. "These documents must be important," Beth murmured, holding the papers carefully. "I can't just leave them here." The feeling of doing the right thing began to grow inside her. Despite her situation, Beth had always valued honesty. "Maybe I can give these back to the owner. Maybe he'll help me," she thought, as she looked again at the faces in the photograph. Determined, Beth decided that the next day she would look for the businessman. After all, what could she lose? She collected the documents and, as she closed the suitcase, a wave of hope washed over her. What had once seemed like an ordinary day had now become an opportunity. The next morning, she dressed in her cleanest clothes and headed for the luxurious mansion she had seen in a magazine one day. The sun was shining, and even though she was starving, the fresh air invigorated her. Every step she took towards the mansion brought with it a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. What if he doesn't care about me? What if he sends me away? These questions haunted her thoughts, but her determination drove her forward. When she finally arrived, she stopped in front of the huge gate, looking at the splendor of the house. The manicured garden and imposing facade were impressive, and Beth felt small and insignificant in the face of so much wealth. She hesitated, but an inner voice encouraged her. "You've come this far. Do the right thing." As the doorbell rang, her heart raced. A security guard opened the door, looking at her with disdain. "What do you want here?" he asked with an expression of disinterest. "I found something that belongs to Mr. William," Beth replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The security guard arched an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "And what do you have to offer?" She took a deep, determined breath. "I just want to give back what's his. I don't want anything in return." After a long wait at the gate, William finally appeared. He was a middle-aged man with a well-cut suit and a piercing gaze. Distrust was evident on his face. "Where did you find this?" he asked, studying her up and down. "In the park," Beth replied, holding the case tightly. "I want it back." William looked at the suitcase and for a moment hesitated. What was a woman like her doing on his doorstep? But there was something in her expression that made him reconsider. He knew those documents were crucial. "Come in," he finally said, making way for Beth to pass. She entered, her heart pounding, not knowing what to expect next. Beth entered the mansion and immediately felt out of place. The shine of the marble and the works of art on the walls were a testament to William's wealth. A scent of fresh flowers hung in the air, but the sense of comfort it was supposed to bring only made her feel even more insecure. She looked around, admiring the luxurious details as William closed the door behind her. "You can leave the suitcase here," he said, pointing to a table on the side. "I'll check what's inside." "Sir, I'd really like to take it into your hands," Beth replied, shyness permeating her voice. "These documents are very important to you, aren't they?" William sighed, looking a little less suspicious. "Yes, they are. Just a moment. He picked up the briefcase and placed it on the table, opening it carefully. As he examined the documents, his gaze changed from skeptical to impressed. How did you find this? There aren't many who would have done what you did. I just thought it would be the right thing to do, Beth replied, feeling a little more at ease. I used to have a family. I know how important it is to have what you love close to you. William paused for a moment, surprised by the depth of her answer. You have a sad story, don't you? He looked into her eyes, realizing the pain that accompanied it. It's a long story, Beth said, looking away. But it doesn't matter now. What matters is that you have the documents back. William shook his head, admiring her honesty. You really are a woman of principle. I can offer you a reward, if you like. How about $1,000? Beth's face lit up momentarily, but then reality hit her. No, sir, I don't want your money. What I'd really like is to spend some time with your family. Time with my family? William repeated, puzzled. Why is that so important to you? She hesitated, the words heavy in her throat. Because I miss having a family, feeling like I belong to someone. The last time I spent with my family was many years ago. William was silent for a moment, contemplating the unexpected request. A week? You know that's unusual. I've never brought a stranger into my home before. I understand, sir, Beth replied, the sadness returning to her gaze. I don't want to bother you. I just thought it would be a chance to feel some of what I've lost. William's expression began to change, his traces of skepticism giving way to empathy. A week? Okay, but it will only be a visit, and if you feel uncomfortable, you can leave at any time. Thank you, said Beth, relieved. I promise not to cause any trouble. He nodded. I'll talk to my wife about it. Come on, I'll show you around. William led Beth through decorated corridors and rooms that oozed elegance. As she admired the details, the presence of a woman interrupted her. Evelyn, his wife, entered the room. Her gaze immediately fixed on Beth with an air of disdain. Who's that? Evelyn asked, her voice sharp. This is Beth. She found my papers and decided she wanted to spend a week with us, William explained, trying to remain calm. A stranger? Evelyn arched an eyebrow, clearly disappointed. Do you really think that's a good idea, William? She's honest, Evelyn, William replied, his voice firm. And she's just asking for a bit of company. I know how these stories end, Evelyn snapped. A week can turn into a nightmare. You don't know anything about her. She just needs a place to stay. What's so bad about that? William insisted, beginning to feel frustrated. Beth felt small in the face of the growing tension. Sorry, I didn't mean to cause trouble. I can leave, she said, looking at William, who was watching her with compassion. No, Beth, you don't have to go, William said, looking at Evelyn with a challenge in his eyes. She'll stay here, and I won't hear any more disdain about it. Evelyn crossed her arms, clearly dissatisfied, but William's gaze was firm. He turned to Beth, trying to ease the tension. Let's get on with the tour. You deserve to see the house that will now be yours too, even if only temporarily. Beth forced a smile, but inside her, anxiety was growing. She knew that Evelyn's presence could be difficult, but the desire to feel the warmth of a family, even for a short time, was stronger. What had begun as a simple return of documents now became a new opportunity, full of possibilities and challenges. The days that followed were a mixture of feelings for Beth. William's house was immense, full of luxuries and comforts that she had never imagined she could enjoy again. However, Evelyn's presence made everything more difficult. The next morning, as the aroma of fresh coffee wafted through the kitchen, Beth was sitting at the table observing the beauty of the place. William came in, smiling, carrying a tray of warm bread and fruit. Good morning, Beth. I hope you're making yourself at home. Good morning, William, replied Beth, trying to hide her apprehension. The food looks wonderful. I'm glad you're here. You deserve a little comfort, he said, placing the tray on the table. But soon the light atmosphere was interrupted by the entrance of Evelyn, who walked up to the table with a disapproving look on her face. Good morning, darling, she said with an icy tone. You're not going to tell me you're feeding her breakfast, are you? William frowned. Evelyn, please, that's not necessary. Beth is our guest. A guest, yes, but one who shouldn't be treated as part of the family, Evelyn retorted, taking a seat at the table with disdain. Are you sure you don't want me to take you back to the street, Beth? Beth swallowed dryly, her heart squeezing. No, I don't want to cause any trouble. she said, trying to keep calm. I just wanted to thank William for his hospitality. Do you really think you're here for hospitality? Evelyn shot back with a sarcastic smile. He brought you here out of pity. Don't confuse that with kindness. The tension in the room was palpable, and Beth felt like an intruder. She looked at William, who seemed distraught. Evelyn, this isn't fair. Beth has done nothing to deserve your contempt, he protested. So what do you intend to do with her, William? Evelyn continued. Tell everyone that you took in a homeless woman? That's not good for your image. Beth, realizing that the situation was becoming untenable, decided to intervene. I don't want to be a burden. If you'd rather I left, I understand. I just thought I could find some comfort here. No, you're not going anywhere, William replied, his voice firm. You're welcome here, and I'll make sure you have a safe place until you decide what to do with your life. Evelyn rolled her eyes, but William was undeterred. Come on, Beth, I have a few things to show you. The garden is wonderful at this time of the year. As they walked outside, Beth breathed a sigh of relief. Sorry about that, William. I didn't mean to cause conflict between you. Don't worry, he said, waving his hand. Evelyn has her insecurities, but you don't have to worry about her. Let's enjoy this time together. They went out into the garden, where colorful flowers were blooming in the sunshine. Beth was enchanted by the beauty of the place. It's amazing here. I've never seen so many flowers at once. It's one of my favorite places, William admitted, smiling. I like to spend time here to relax and think about business. Nature has always been a refuge for me. As they walked, Beth began to open up more. In fact, I used to have a small garden when I had my house. I loved looking after the plants, seeing how they grew. You must have a special talent, William said, looking at her with admiration. One day, you can teach me how to take better care of mine. I'd love to, Beth replied, enthusiasm beginning to shine in her eyes. The conversation flowed naturally, and for a moment she forgot about the tensions with Evelyn. You know, William, I really appreciate this. Having someone to talk to again is a blessing. You're not alone, Beth, he assured her, his expression sincere. I'll do my best to make you feel at home. You deserve it. But as the day progressed, Evelyn wasn't willing to let the situation cool down. As the sun began to set, she approached them in the garden, a smile not quite reaching her eyes. I hope you're enjoying yourself, Beth, said Evelyn, her tone disguised as sweetness. But remember that you don't belong here. Beth felt a chill run down her spine, but William quickly intervened. That's enough, Evelyn. That's no way to treat someone. Beth is our guest and she will be respected. The tension was back, but William's determination strengthened her. I'm sorry, Beth. I'll sort it out. Let's go in. As they walked back to the house, Beth pondered the strange dynamic that was unfolding. There was something deeper to the relationship between William and Evelyn, and she couldn't help feeling that it was a storm about to brew. Yet hope still burned inside her. Maybe, just maybe, this week would bring something more than just bitter memories. Maybe it could be a new beginning. The days passed, and while Beth tried to adjust to life at William's mansion, the tension with Evelyn only increased. William continued to treat Beth with respect and kindness, but the presence of his wife seemed to create a heavy and uncomfortable atmosphere. One morning, while Beth was in the kitchen preparing a snack, Evelyn walked in, her eyes cold as ice. Are you still here? She asked with an acid tone. Did you think you could settle into our house and become part of our family? Beth took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I don't want to cause trouble, Evelyn. I'm just taking the opportunity to feel at home for a while. Home? Evelyn laughed, a humorless laugh. You know this is temporary, don't you? As soon as my husband realizes that you're nothing more than an ordinary woman, you'll leave. Evelyn, that's unnecessary, said William, who had just entered. Beth doesn't deserve your contempt. She's here as our guest, and that should be respected. Guest? You're being naive, William, Evelyn retorted, turning to him with an angry expression. She's here to enjoy what she can, and you don't see that? Beth, feeling at the center of a storm, tried to intervene. I don't want to be a burden to you. If it's best for me to leave, I can do that. No, you're not going anywhere, William replied, his voice firm. You're welcome here, and I won't let Evelyn treat you like this. Evelyn crossed her arms, clearly annoyed, but William ignored her look. Let's go into the garden, he suggested to Beth, trying to smooth things over. "I want to show you some plants we're growing." As they walked outside, Beth felt relieved. However, the tension continued to weigh on her shoulders. "I'm sorry about that, William. I don't want to cause problems between you and your wife." "Don't worry about it," he replied, but the expression on his face said otherwise. "I'm dealing with it. Evelyn has her insecurities, and I can't let her control the situation." "But you don't have to feel responsible for me," Beth insisted. "I'm grateful for your hospitality, but this is between you. I don't want to be a source of conflict." "Beth, you're more than a guest," William declared, stopping to look her in the eye. "You're an incredible person who deserves dignity and respect, and I'm going to make sure you get it." The day went on with William showing Beth some of the plants he grew. She talked about her love of gardening, and he listened attentively, smiling at each anecdote. "I never thought a woman could know so much about flowers," he joked. "It's a passion I've always had," Beth replied excitedly. "They bring joy and color to life, just like people. You should plant some roses. They're wonderful and have an incredible scent." William smiled. "If you want, we can do it together. Having a flower shop at home could be a good way to make you feel at home." As they talked, Beth began to relax, feeling that maybe she really did belong there. However, Evelyn's shadow still hung over them, and she knew that the peace was temporary. That evening, as everyone sat down to dinner, Evelyn didn't miss the opportunity to launch her barbs. "The food is good, William," she said, looking at Beth, "but maybe you should have a real chef instead of a woman who doesn't even know where to stand." "Evelyn?" William exclaimed, his tone harsh. "Enough! This is not acceptable." Beth felt the pain in his words but tried not to show it. "I just wanted to help," she said, looking down at her plate. "I'm sorry if I didn't meet your expectations." "You don't have to apologize," William assured her, looking at Beth with affection. "You're doing your best, and that's what matters." But Evelyn wasn't willing to let the situation go cold. "William, do you really think she's a good influence? The life she leads is a disgrace, and you're about to ruin ours because of her." "Evelyn, please, let's stop this," William said, exasperated. "Beth is an incredible woman and deserves respect." The tension at the table was palpable. Beth looked at them both, realizing that she was at the center of a conflict that she hadn't asked to be a part of. What should have been a comforting experience became a constant struggle. "Let's talk about something else," Beth suggested, trying to ease the tension. "What have you been doing for fun lately, William?" He looked at her, relieved by her attempt to change the subject. "Well, I've been pretty busy with business, but I do enjoy spending time on the golf course when I can." The conversation slowly began to flow the other way, but Beth knew that tensions had not yet dissipated. The atmosphere was charged, and every day she wondered how long she could put up with Evelyn's coldness. As she retired to her room later, Beth felt exhausted but determined. She was there for a reason, and she wouldn't allow Evelyn's behavior to distract her from her goal. She needed to find a way to connect with William, to make him see that she was more than just a stranger who had entered his home. She was determined to make the most of this opportunity, regardless of the difficulties she faced. Beth continued to make an effort to integrate herself into the routine of William's home, but things began to get more complicated as the tension between him and Evelyn increased. William spent more time in the office, revising documents and making calls, while Beth tried to keep herself busy by helping around the house and tending to the garden. Every day, she felt that her presence was beginning to affect the couple's dynamic. And one sunny morning, Beth was tending to the flowers in the garden when she heard the kitchen door open. William appeared, a worried look on his face. "Beth, do you have a moment?" "Of course, William," she replied, wiping her hands on the towel. "What happened?" "I need to talk to you about something," he said, looking around to make sure Evelyn wasn't nearby. "I found out that some contracts I signed are being sabotaged, and I can't let that go unnoticed." "Sabotage?" Beth repeated in surprise. "How could that happen?" William sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It seems that someone inside the company is leaking information, and honestly, I have my suspicions about Evelyn. She's been acting strangely lately." "Do you think she could do something like that?" Beth asked, worried. "I don't know. I've known her for years, but things have changed. I'm starting to realize that maybe I don't know everything about her," William admitted, his gaze full of uncertainty. "You should confront her," Beth suggested. If she's really involved in this, you need to know the truth. I'll do it, but I can't do it now. She'll get suspicious, William said, looking around again. For now, I want you to stay here. I need you around to help me keep my head on straight. Beth nodded, but a feeling of anxiety invaded her. What if she finds out we're talking about this? She might turn against me too. Don't worry about that. I'll make sure you're safe, William said, but the fear in his gaze made her apprehensive. Over the next few days, Beth noticed that Evelyn was behaving even more strangely. She was always present, watching William and Beth's every move, and often casting icy glances in their direction. The atmosphere in the house was becoming increasingly tense, and the interactions between William and Evelyn were becoming more heated. One evening, during dinner, the tension exploded. Evelyn, in a sarcastic tone, asked, "So, how's your garden, Beth? Any new plants you're thinking of growing?" "Actually, I'm thinking of planting some roses," Beth replied, trying to be friendly. "Roses? As if you know what it's like to look after something so delicate," Evelyn said, her voice cutting. "You know, William, you should really ask yourself why a woman like her is here in the first place." William, visibly irritated, retorted, "Evelyn, that's not fair. Beth is here because she's an honest person who deserves respect." "Respect?" Evelyn laughed with a cynical tone. "Please don't make me laugh. This woman just wants to take advantage of your goodwill. You're so naive, William." Beth remained silent, her heart racing. She knew Evelyn's words were poisonous, but she tried hard not to let it get to her. "I'm just trying to help. I don't want to cause trouble between you," she said, her voice shaking. "Maybe you should go back to the streets where you belong," Evelyn snapped, her expression full of contempt. William stood up abruptly, his face red with anger. "Enough, Evelyn! This is unacceptable. You can't keep treating Beth like this. She deserves better than this. And you think I don't deserve the same? Don't you see what's going on? She's trying to infiltrate our lives," Evelyn shouted, frustration exploding. "It's not about you or me. It's about doing what's right, and you need to stop acting like you're jealous," William declared, his voice firm. The tension at the table was unbearable. Beth felt a knot in her stomach. "Maybe I should leave," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I don't want to be the cause of conflict between you." "You're not going anywhere," William replied, his determination growing. "Evelyn, you have to stop. This can't go on." Evelyn crossed her arms, defiant. "Very well, William, but know that this situation is not going to end well, and by the time you realize it, it may be too late." After dinner, Beth retired to the garden, her heart heavy. William followed her, finding her sitting on a bench under the stars. "I'm sorry about that, Beth," he said, taking a seat next to her. "I didn't want you to go through that." "It's not your fault, William," Beth replied, looking up at the sky. "I really don't want to be a problem. I just wanted some peace." "I promise I'll sort it out," he said, taking her hand. "You deserve to be somewhere safe and happy." The connection between them seemed stronger at that moment. Beth looked at him and saw a man who was also struggling, trapped in a toxic relationship. "I just hope you find the clarity you need," she said softly. "I will, Beth. For you, I will fight," he replied, his voice full of determination. The strength emanating from William was comforting, but Beth knew that the fight had only just begun. She was willing to face any challenge alongside him, even if it meant confronting the ghosts of the past that still haunted the mansion. The days passed, and the tension in William and Evelyn's home continued to grow. William, determined to find out the truth about the sabotage at his company, began to investigate discreetly. He became more reserved, and Beth realized that something heavy was hanging over him. One afternoon, while Beth was tending to the garden, William approached, looking worried. "Beth, I need you to do me a favor," he said, looking around to make sure no one could hear them. "Of course. What do you need?" she replied, her voice soft. "I need you to help me observe Evelyn. I suspect she's meeting someone she shouldn't," William admitted, his voice tense. "I don't want her to know that I'm suspicious, but if you notice anything suspicious, I need you to let me know." Beth felt a chill in her stomach. "Isn't that too risky? She might suspect that you're watching her." "I know, but I need to know the truth. If she's really involved in the sabotage, I can't let her continue," William said, his determination evident. "Okay, I'll keep an eye out," Beth agreed, knowing that the situation was becoming increasingly dangerous. "But I hope you're right about this." William smiled gratefully, but there was a weight in his gaze that worried Beth. The tension grew, and every day seemed like a test of emotional endurance. One evening, while they were in the dining room, William received a phone call. He turned away to talk, and Beth instinctively decided to pay attention. Listening to fragments of the conversation, she realized that he was discussing details about a contract that was about to be signed. "You can't let this happen," William said quietly. "If Evelyn is involved, it could ruin everything." Beth felt her heart race. What had he discovered? When William returned, his expression was grave. "We need to have a talk, Beth," he said, looking directly at her. "I'm starting to put the pieces together." "About what?" Beth asked, concerned. "About my company and about Evelyn," he replied, his voice low. "She hasn't been straight with me. I'm going to confront her tomorrow." "Are you right about that? What if she's more dangerous than you think?" Beth asked, fearing for his safety. "I have no choice. I can't allow her to continue manipulating all this," William declared, his voice firm. "If I don't, it may be too late." Beth nodded, but anxiety consumed her. "I'm here for you, William. No matter what happens, I'll be there for you." The next morning, the atmosphere in the house was tense. William was preparing for his conversation with Evelyn, while Beth was trying to keep busy in the garden. She knew that things were about to change, and her anticipation made her nervous. "William, are you ready?" Beth asked when he appeared in the doorway, his expression serious. "I am," he replied, but Beth could see the uncertainty in his gaze. "I just hope it's not too difficult." "You can do it. Tell the truth and don't be afraid. You deserve freedom," Beth encouraged, touching his arm. He smiled briefly, finding strength in her words. "Thank you, Beth. That means a lot to me." With one last determined look, William entered the room where Evelyn was. Beth stood outside, holding her breath as she listened to the conversation. "Evelyn, we need to talk," William began, his voice authoritative. "I know something's going on." The silence was heavy. "What do you mean, William?" Evelyn asked, distrust evident in her tone. "I have reason to believe that you are meeting with someone who is sabotaging my business," William stated, his voice firm. "That's a serious accusation," Evelyn replied, but Beth could feel the tension growing. "Do you really think I would do something like that? I don't know who to trust anymore. You've been acting strangely, and this can't go on," William said without backing down. Beth couldn't hear Evelyn's response, but the anger in her voice was clear. "You can't accuse me without proof. That's an insult, William." "I'm not here to insult you, but to set the record straight. I want to know the truth," he replied, his determination evident. After a few moments, Beth could no longer stand still. Her heart racing, she entered the room. "William, maybe I should leave for a while," she suggested, noticing the growing tension. "No, you don't have to go, Beth. Stay here," William said, looking at her with a mixture of gratitude and concern. Evelyn looked at Beth, her gaze full of contempt. "So this is how you repay hospitality? By getting involved in my husband's life?" "I'm just trying to help," Beth replied, facing Evelyn. "And you know that's not fair. William doesn't deserve it." "Oh, you really think you're helping?" Evelyn shot back with a dismissive smile. "You're just an intruder. I'm his wife, and I'm the one he should listen to." "Don't give me that speech," William interrupted, his voice raised. "I'm no longer willing to accept your lies." The conversation escalated, and Beth realized that the situation was about to explode. What was supposed to be a simple conversation had become a battle of emotions, and the truth was about to be revealed. She took a deep breath, feeling that everyone's future was at stake. William turned to Evelyn, anger and pain in his gaze. "I'm going to find out the truth. No matter what you do, I won't let you control me anymore." The tension in the room reached a critical point. William stared at Evelyn with determination, while Beth watched, her heart racing with the uncertainty of what was to come. She knew that the truth needed to be revealed, but the fear of what might happen kept her apprehensive. "William, you can't just accuse me like that," Evelyn shouted, her voice filled with anger. "You're being naive to believe that this woman can be trusted." "I trust Beth," William stated without hesitation. "She's the only one who's been honest with me. I can't say the same for you." Evelyn shook her head, laughing sarcastically. "Honest? Are you really letting yourself be taken in by a stranger who's just come into our lives?" That's ridiculous. Enough, Evelyn. I'm not going to put up with your manipulations any longer, William exclaimed, frustration showing in his voice. You're not acting like my wife, but like someone who wants to control everything around me. Beth felt a wave of relief when she heard William oppose Evelyn. William, maybe I should leave now. I don't want this to get any worse, she suggested nervously. No, you're not going anywhere, William said, turning to her. I'm not going to let you run away from the truth, Beth. You're important to me, and that needs to be said. Evelyn's gaze became fiercer. Very important, isn't it? Now you're putting your trust in a woman who probably knows nothing about us. I'm tired of living in the shadow of your lies, William replied, his tone resolute. I need to know what's going on, and you can't hide it from me any longer. The pressure in the room was palpable. Evelyn looked at William, her expression quickly changing from anger to calculated coldness. Do you really think I haven't noticed how much you've changed, William? Ever since she came here, you've been different. You seem vulnerable, and I can't allow that to continue. I'm no longer the man you knew, William said, his voice low but firm. I'm starting to see the truth, and you're not going to manipulate me anymore. If you think you can leave me, you're sorely mistaken. I'm still your wife, and I'll fight for it, Evelyn threatened, her eyes blazing with fury. You can even get close to her, but don't forget who the real owner of this house is. Beth, not knowing how to react, took a deep breath. Evelyn, you need to stop this. It's not worth destroying what you two have because of jealousy. Jealousy? It's not about jealousy, it's about loyalty, Evelyn shouted, advancing towards Beth. You don't know anything about what it means to be married to someone like William. Maybe not, but I know what it's like to feel that someone doesn't trust you, Beth replied, courage beginning to emerge. And I'm not going to let you treat William like that. William looked at Beth, admiring her courage. That's exactly what I'm saying, Evelyn. Beth has been honest and truthful, while you've been hiding your actions behind fake smiles. I can't ignore it any longer. So you believe her more than me? Evelyn questioned, the pain visible in her gaze. After everything I've done for you? I don't know what you've done for me anymore, William replied, his tone cutting. What I do know is that you're lying, and I can't live like this. I can't have someone I can't trust by my side. Silence fell over the room as William's words echoed. The tension between the three of them was almost unbearable, and Beth sensed that the situation could escalate quickly. William, maybe I should leave now, she suggested again hesitantly. This is too intense. No, stay here, William pleaded, looking into her eyes. I need you by my side, now more than ever. Evelyn's expression hardened, and she began to move closer to William. You'll regret this, William. You can't just choose a stranger and discard what we have, she said, her voice calmer but full of venom. Do you really believe that's a choice? I can't live in this lie any longer, William declared, his voice shaking with emotion. And if that means losing you, then so be it. I can no longer be trapped in this toxic relationship. William's words were like a blow. Beth felt her heart soar. You're right, William. You deserve to be happy, and I don't want to be a reason for you to feel guilty, she said softly, sincerity in her voice. You're not the reason, Beth. It's Evelyn who's made me feel this way, William said, a firm resolve in his gaze. I'm going to file for divorce. The revelation hung in the air like a storm about to break. Evelyn, seemingly in shock, looked at him, her eyes full of disbelief. You can't do that. We have a life together. A life of lies, William replied. I can't sustain it any longer. I need the truth. The silence in the room was heavy. The tension between William and Evelyn was at its peak, and Beth watched with a mixture of apprehension and hope. The future seemed uncertain, but whatever happened, she knew that the truth had to be revealed, and freedom was finally within William's grasp. If that's what you really want, then so be it, Evelyn said, her voice softer but filled with a hidden resentment. But you'll regret it, William. You'll see. William turned to Beth, seeking comfort. I won't regret it because I'm finally doing what's right, and you deserve better than that, Beth. With one last determined look, William turned away from Evelyn, while Beth moved closer, realizing that she was standing next to a man who was finally ready to fight for his freedom and happiness. After the intense confrontation, William was determined to take charge of his life. He summoned Evelyn to his office for a private conversation, where they could discuss the details of the divorce away from Beth and the tension that hung in the house. Beth walked away, feeling a mixture of anxiety and hope. What would happen next? William seemed stronger than ever, but the weight of the decision was still on his shoulders. While she waited, she decided to tend to the garden, which always calmed her down. The vibrant flowers were a reminder that life could flourish even in the most difficult circumstances. While Beth was absorbed in her thoughts, William entered the garden, the expression on his face showing that the conversation with Evelyn had not been easy. "Beth," he called, and her heart raced at hearing her name. "How was it?" she asked, concern in her eyes. "Difficult, but necessary. I finally told her I want a divorce," William replied, trying to stand firm, but his voice betrayed a fragility. She was furious, of course, but I can't live in a lie any longer. "And how do you feel now?" Beth asked, taking a step towards him. "Relieved, but also sad," he admitted. "It was a part of my life for so long. It's hard to close a chapter, even if it's necessary." "You did the right thing, William," Beth encouraged him, gently touching his arm. "Now you can concentrate on yourself, on your happiness." He smiled, although the sadness was still present in his gaze. "I couldn't have done it without you. Your presence gave me strength when I needed it most." Beth blushed slightly, feeling a wave of gratitude. "I only did what anyone would do. You deserve to be happy." But the calm didn't last. One evening, while everyone was gathered in the living room, Evelyn decided to confront William again. She entered with a defiant expression, and Beth sensed the tension in the air. "So you finally decided to move on, have you?" Evelyn shot back, her voice full of sarcasm. "You thought it would be easy, did you?" "Evelyn, I don't want to discuss this anymore," William replied, trying to keep his cool. "Is that how you treat me? After everything I've done for you? You're going to throw all that away for a woman who doesn't even know our history?" Evelyn retorted, her gaze penetrating. "This woman is the only one who has been honest with me, unlike you," William exclaimed, frustration exploding. "I can't continue in this toxic relationship." Beth, flustered, decided to intervene. "Evelyn, this is going nowhere. His mind is made up. What you're trying to do is just hurt people more." Evelyn turned to Beth, anger in her eyes. "And you intruder, have no right to meddle in our lives. You don't know anything about what happened between us." "Maybe I don't know, but I'm here now, and you need to respect that," Beth replied firmly. "Respect it? Do you really think I should respect a woman who has invaded my home? Who wants to take what's mine?" Evelyn challenged. William stood between the two, holding his breath. "Evelyn, you can't go on with this attitude. What happened between us is no longer relevant. I'm focused on moving on." "You can move on, but don't think you're going to do it without consequences," Evelyn threatened, her gaze penetrating. "If you think I'm going to let this go unchallenged, you're sorely mistaken." Beth felt a shiver run down her spine. "What do you mean?" she asked, her anxiety growing. "I'm going to fight for what's mine, William, and you'll regret leaving me," Evelyn snapped, her voice full of resentment. And William approached Beth, putting his hand on her shoulder. "I won't let you threaten me, Evelyn. This ends here." After the explosion of emotions, William and Beth walked away, leaving Evelyn alone in the room, her gaze full of anger and determination. "I'll do whatever it takes," Evelyn muttered to herself, as the door closed behind William and Beth. The next few days were tense. William and Beth tried to stay positive, but the atmosphere of uncertainty hung over them. Beth knew that Evelyn wouldn't give up easily, and the tension that had previously been concentrated in the living room now seemed to spread throughout the house. One night, as they sat in the garden under the stars, Beth decided to break the silence. "William, are you all right? You look worried." "I'm just thinking about the repercussions of what happened. Evelyn might do something impulsive, and I don't want you to be in the middle of it," William confessed, the worry evident in his voice. "I'm here for you. Don't forget that," Beth assured him. "Whatever she plans, we'll face it together." "Thank you, Beth. You really are a friend," he replied, his gaze softening. The relationship between the two of them was beginning to change. There was a deeper connection, a trust that grew stronger with each challenge they faced. But the shadows of Evelyn still hung over them, and Beth knew they couldn't relax until the situation was resolved once and for all. As the silence of the night enveloped them, Beth reminded herself that sometimes, to find true happiness, you have to face your fears and fight for what you believe in. And she was willing to do that for William, no matter what came next. The tension at William's mansion increased over the following weeks, and Evelyn's presence became an oppressive shadow. She seemed determined to cause trouble, and every day Beth felt more insecure about her position there. William, on the other hand, was focused on his decision to divorce Evelyn. He knew he couldn't go on living in a relationship based on lies and manipulation. But even with the determination to move on, he was aware that the road ahead would be difficult. One evening, while they were in the living room, William received a phone call from his lawyer. He stepped away to answer it, and Beth, realizing that he needed privacy, decided to go out into the garden. Sitting on one of the benches, she reflected on the situation. How did I get to this point, she thought, remembering her life on the streets and how distant it all seemed now. The sound of the door opening brought her back to reality. William came out with a worried expression. "Beth, I need to talk to you," he said, approaching quickly. "What happened?" Beth asked, her heart racing. "The lawyer said that Evelyn is trying to complicate things. She won't accept the divorce easily and may do everything she can to ruin my reputation," William explained, his tone serious. "That's not good," Beth replied, worried. "Have you thought about how you're going to deal with it?" "I have to prepare myself. I can't let her use this against me. And I don't want you to become a target," William said, looking straight into Beth's eyes. "You don't deserve this." "William, I'm here for you. I won't let it get to me," she replied, trying to convey her strength. "But how are you going to protect yourself?" "I'm going to gather evidence, show what really happened. I can't let her continue to manipulate me," William declared, determination settling in his gaze. However, the peace was about to be interrupted. The next day, while Beth was in the garden, Evelyn appeared, an expression of triumph on her face. "Hello, darling," she said with a tone of debauchery. "You're so comfortable here, aren't you?" Beth stopped, her heart beating faster. "What do you want, Evelyn?" "Oh, just a friendly chat," Evelyn replied, stepping closer. "I've heard some things that worry me about you and William. If you're here to threaten me, you can forget it. I'm not leaving," Beth replied, her voice firm. "It's not a threat, darling. It's just a warning. You may be getting into something you don't understand. William may well regret bringing you into his life," Evelyn said, the coldness in her gaze. "He won't regret it. He's made a clear decision about you," Beth said, crossing her arms. Evelyn laughed, but there was no joy in her laughter. "Do you really think this is the end? I have plenty of resources and contacts. If you dare stand in the way, I can make your life a living hell." Beth felt her adrenaline rise but kept her composure. "William deserves to be happy, and you can't stop him. If he decides to move on, that's up to him." "Ah, but you don't understand, do you? I know secrets that could destroy your life and his." "Don't play with fire," Evelyn threatened, her voice low and menacing. "And what do you intend to do?" Beth asked, her gaze defiant. "I'm just saying that you should keep your eyes open. Things might not turn out the way you planned," Evelyn whispered. Before walking away, a mischievous smile on her lips. After Evelyn had gone, Beth returned to the house, her heart still racing. She found William in the study, his expression tense. "William, we need to talk," she said, entering. "What happened?" he asked, immediately worried. "Evelyn was in the garden. She threatened me, said she knows secrets that could ruin our lives," Beth explained, her voice trembling. "Damn it, she's not going to stop." "Is she?" William said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I can't let her do this to you." "William, we can't let this paralyze us. We need to face this together," Beth encouraged him, trying to stay calm. "You're right. I can't let her intimidate me. I'm going to talk to my lawyer tomorrow and gather everything I can," he declared, his determination returning. That night, as they prepared for bed, William looked at Beth. "If anything happens, I want you to know that you're not a problem. You're the only person who gave me hope. And you're the only person who's made me feel that I can still have a future," Beth replied, her heart warmed. "Let's not let the past define us." Over the next few days, William worked tirelessly to ensure that Evelyn had no power over his life. He met with his lawyer and organized all the necessary paperwork. Meanwhile, Beth remained by his side, helping him to cope with the situation. One day, while they were going over documents in the office, William turned to Beth. "I want you to know that whatever happens, you'll always have a place here," he said, his eyes sincere. "Thank you, William. That means a lot to me," she replied, feeling emotional. I never thought I would meet someone so special at such a difficult time in my life. You gave me the courage I needed, he continued, taking her hand. Beth smiled, the warmth between them growing. We'll face this together, no matter what. Over time, William's strength began to show, and Beth's presence became a beacon in the darkness. She helped him realize that he deserved a better future, and that together they could overcome any challenge. While Evelyn tried to destabilize them, William and Beth were ready to fight for their happiness, together, defying the past and embracing a new beginning. The journey was just beginning, but the hope of a bright future was now closer than ever. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more stories like this one, we have prepared the next video just for you. Click here to watch.